Right, about a month ago I scoured Amazon to find the cheapest equipment I could to make up a beginner's sourdough baking kit. Now my goal was not to exceed €100, which right now is about $100, while I was doing my best to buy equipment that would actually last. So I trawled Amazon and I immersed myself in the reviews, and I very nearly came up with a kit that would get any home baker well on their way to baking an awesome loaf of sourdough. Not everything was rosy, no. Oh no, there was one popular item that I'm going to tell you to stay well clear of. Now this video isn't really about telling you what you should go out and buy. It's more about what to look out for and what to expect if you go down the budget route. Now I thought long and hard about what I might want if I was starting to bake from scratch again. I decided on a bowl scraper, a dough scraper, a sourdough basket, alarm with razor blades, and of course digital scales, and a cast iron baking pan. I got one bonus item as well, which was a dough whisk. The entire kit cost me €101, which is about the same in US dollars. Right, so let's break it down individually. Right, so this basket bundle was an absolute steal. It included one oval basket, which is perfect for about 800 grams of dough, and it came with a round basket, which is perfect for about a kilo or so of dough. Now both of these are really well made and they both come with cloth inserts. There are no splinters and they're pinned really well together. They're nice and rigid. Now I've used both of these several times with and without the cloth inserts, and if the dough is correctly dusted then there's absolutely no chance of the dough sticking. And I love the fact that you get this oval and round basket together, so you can switch up the style of bread, and of course having two baskets means you can bake a couple of loaves at one go. I'm going to give these baskets an 8 out of 10. Now the bowl scraper is plastic and a particularly horrible colour. At least you won't be in danger of losing it, but it does fit the contour of my bowl perfectly, and it's nice and flexible, and it doesn't feel like it's going to tear after a couple of months. Overall, great little budget scraper, good for getting the job done. This is going to get a 7 out of 10. So the bench scraper does the job too, but it's certainly no work of art. The handle's made from soft wood with a particularly dodgy coloured stain, but the blade is nice and rigid and it's well fixed into the handle with a couple of rivets. But here's my gripe, and I've got it with a lot of bench scrapers, even some of the expensive ones. The leading edge is completely blunt. It's actually square, which means that while it's okay for scraping your bench clean or moving the dough around, it isn't brilliant at cutting through the dough. Now, if you've never used a bench scraper that's got a sharp edge, you may not even notice this, but it makes the world of difference. If you've got the choice between different scrapers, try to choose one that's got a beveled edge, a sharp edge. I promise you it's going to make a huge difference to the tactile response. But if you do end up with a blunt scraper and you've got a whetstone for sharpening your knives, consider putting a little edge on it yourself. This bench scraper is going to get a 5 out of 10. Right, so included in the basket bundle is this baker's alarm. Now, it's a simple design, pretty straightforward, and it's well constructed. It's perfect for making either angled or straight incisions. It's definitely going to get the job done. Now the razor blades appear sharp, but if you compare them to something like an Astra double-edged blade, you're going to notice they're actually pretty dull. But make no mistakes, you will lose pieces of your fingers if you're not careful. And to be fair, they make relatively easy work of scoring. Now the alarm feels like it's going to last for a long time, but I definitely suggest buying better quality razor blades when it's time to replace them. Now this questionable leather pouch for guarding the blade is simple and it definitely protects your digits. Overall it feels cheap, but it does work. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. Right, and lastly we've got our Danish dough whisk. Now I wouldn't have picked this if it didn't come with a basket bundle, as it's something I don't consider necessary to bake, but I know lots of you absolutely love these, so if you get one of these in your kit you might see it as a bonus. I like using my trusty spoon, so I didn't test drive this one, but I can tell you it's super solid. The whisk is really well anchored to the handle. It's really nice and stiff, so mixing that dough is going to be a breeze. I did find a few blemishes on the top of the whisk, which bugged me a little bit. Overall, I think this basket bundle is pretty awesome for a beginner baker, and I'm going to rate the entire bundle at 7 out of 10. This, this was the cheapest 5 litre Dutch oven I could find on Amazon. I was actually intending on buying a Lodge cast iron pan, but when I found this absolute steal at €53, I couldn't resist it. This is an Overmont 5 litre baking pan, and for the price, I love it. The build quality is really good, and there aren't any chips or rough spots on this pan. It arrived really well seasoned, although I did give it a quick scrub and re-season it just to make sure. Now, as there's no handle on the shallow section of this pan, it can be easily loaded with sourdough. And at 5.7 kilos, it's not too heavy to lift in or out of the oven. And I've also been baking deep pan pizza in this, and it worked extremely well. I am super pleased with this purchase, and I think it is great for anyone looking for a budget option. This is something that I will continue to use on a weekly basis and not just for sourdough. This gets a solid 8 out of 10 from me. Right, so lastly, one of the most important bits of kit for any baker, digital scales. Now, Amazon Basic Scales had some great reviews and an overall high score, so I thought they may be appealing to someone on a budget. Now, when I unpacked them, I tested them against my KD8000s, and to be fair, they seemed to be dialed in correctly. The scales were really responsive and very quick to display the weight. But that's kind of where things started to fall apart. Even when I was adding ingredients slowly to my bowl, when I was weighing out my ingredients, the readout might jump up or down 2 or 3 grams. And in some cases, when I removed the bowl or container from the scales, they didn't display 0 again, which, they most definitely should. Now, I've never been a fan of cheap scales, but I can safely say these are the worst that I've ever used. I quickly lost confidence in their accuracy, and it kind of destroyed my enjoyment. And one more thing, and this is something to think about whichever scales you're going to be choosing. The buttons aren't protected, and this means that flour and water can easily find their way inside, and trust me, that's when things go horribly wrong. I've experienced this on many sets of scales. So my advice is to stay clear of any scales that don't have sealed or protected buttons and readouts. Now, because the readout erratically jumped around while I was using these are going to get 0 out of 10. Now, of course, even the very best equipment that money can buy won't necessarily improve our sourdough baking. Practicing on a regular basis with help to guide us in the right direction and some support from like-minded home bakers is one of the best ways to improve our skills and our enjoyment. Now, recently I've been planning a way to provide some coaching and a community to those who want to improve their sourdough baking. So if you're interested in something like that, or you'd like to become a founding member of a coaching community like this, then check out my vision by clicking the link in the video description. Now, I definitely think it's possible to find a good budget baking kit, but you're going to need to search carefully and check those reviews. Don't expect too much bang for your buck. Set your expectations rationally compared to what you're going to be paying. And remember, I've only been testing and playing around with these products for about 3 weeks or so I can't comment on their longevity. But apart from those Amazon Basic Scales, I was super pleased with this budget baking kit. A huge thank you for watching. I'll see you again very soon. Stay tuned.